What breaks a person more? The sound of your anger or the sound of your absence? Most think it's the yelling, the confrontation, the goodbye text that stings the most. But they're wrong. It's the silence that destroys. Because when a man who once gave his heart, his time, his patience, suddenly disappears without explanation, the world around her goes quiet in a way she can't stand. Your voice is gone, your presence is gone. The energy that used to orbit around her has vanished, and that silence becomes unbearable. See, there's a kind of silence that isn't peaceful, it's powerful. It's the silence of a man who's seen enough, felt enough, and finally understands that detachment is not cruelty, it's clarity. The kind of clarity that says, I owe myself peace more than I owe you conversation. Because when you stop explaining yourself, you stop bleeding energy. You stop chasing validation. You stop trying to fix what's already broken. That's when silence becomes your final boundary. A man's calm withdrawal is the most eloquent form of strength there is. No drama, no closure, just stillness that speaks louder than any argument. And here's the truth most won't admit. When a Stoic man goes quiet, it isn't a phase, it's a decision. She may think it's temporary, that you'll come back, that the silence is just space to breathe. But deep down, you already know, it's the sound of your liberation. This isn't about playing games, it's about mastery, because real power isn't in how loud you can roar, it's in how still you can stand while everything tries to pull you back into chaos. So listen closely. This is dark Stoicism, where silence becomes your language, distance becomes your strength, and peace becomes your revenge. If you're ready to walk this path of unshakable calm and inner control, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to become a Stoic soldier. Now, let's begin. When a man disappears without warning, it creates a kind of silence that doesn't just echo, it haunts. She replays the last conversation, the last message, the last glance, trying to find a sign, a clue, something that tells her why you stopped showing up. But that's the beauty of it. You didn't make an announcement, you didn't argue, you didn't beg to be understood. You simply vanished. And that disappearance speaks more truth than any speech ever could. Because disappearing isn't running away, it's reclaiming your energy. It's understanding that you don't owe anyone your presence, especially when that presence has been disrespected, doubted, or taken for granted. When you disappear, you remind her that attention was a privilege, not a guarantee. Your silence becomes proof that you were the calm in her storm, not the cause of it. At first she'll convince herself you're just busy. Then she'll tell herself you're being dramatic. But as time stretches on, as days turn into weeks, that confidence turns into anxiety. Because your silence removes her reflection, it denies her validation, it forces her to sit with the emptiness she created. See, when you stop explaining your absence, your presence becomes sacred. When you stop showing up to prove your worth multiplies in her memory. The mind has a funny way of glorifying what it can no longer touch. And that's what happens when you go silent. Suddenly, she remembers the version of you she never appreciated, and it eats at her. But this isn't about revenge. It's about evolution. You're not disappearing to teach her a lesson. You're disappearing because you've learned yours. That peace is worth more than proving a point. That dignity speaks louder than words. And that sometimes the most powerful statement a man can make is to walk away so quietly that she has to scream in her own head to fill the silence. When you master this level of detachment, you stop chasing closure. You stop needing to be understood. You start to understand yourself instead. Because the one who can walk away without explanation is the one who has already transcended the need for validation. This is the power of disappearing without warning. It's not cruelty, it's command. the command over your emotions, your energy, your peace, and your destiny. The first few days after your silence are confusing to her. She checks her phone, expecting your name to light up the screen. She scrolls through old messages, reading your words like relics of a past she never valued. At first, she brushes it off. He's probably just busy. Then a few days turn into a week turns into 2, and that quiet, your quiet, starts to echo louder than any argument ever did. You see, most people think noise means life and silence means absence. But in truth, your silence is presence, just in a higher form. It's the sound of boundaries. It's the echo of self-respect. It's the moment she realizes you weren't like the others, because you didn't beg, plead, or chase. You simply stopped showing up. And that's what shocks her most. The man she thought she had wrapped around her finger slipped through her hands without a word. At first, she might get angry. That's denial disguised as pride. Then she'll act unbothered. That's fear hiding behind ego. But late at night, when the world goes quiet, she'll start to wonder. Why doesn't it feel the same without him? Why does the silence feel like punishment? That's the power of withdrawal. It exposes what words once hid. The truth is, your absence creates contrast. Without you there, she begins to see herself differently. The attention she once took for granted becomes a ghost that follows her around. The energy she used to feel from your presence now exists only in memory, and the more she tries to fill that void, the deeper it gets. Because silence has a way of making people face themselves, and not everyone is ready for that. You see, you didn't just leave a space empty, you left a reflection, one that shows her everything she ignored, dismissed, or devalued. That's the cruel mercy of silence. It doesn't attack, it reveals. It doesn't shout, it exposes. And while she's out there trying to pretend she's moved on, the truth gnaws at her. He's really gone. Not temporarily, not for attention. Gone. And that realization doesn't just sting, it breaks the illusion. Because what she's finally learning, perhaps too late, is that silence isn't the absence of love. It's the consequence of its misuse. And once a man who loved deeply learns to love quietly, he never returns the same. Silence has a strange power. It doesn't just remove noise, it replaces it with truth. When your voice fades, when your presence is gone, she's left with something far more uncomfortable than your words, herself. And that's the moment silence becomes a mirror. Because your absence doesn't just make her miss you, it forces her to face everything she tried to bury. At first, she blames you. That's easier than facing herself. He's cold. He's immature. He's just trying to manipulate me. But the longer your silence stretches on, the more those excuses crumble. The mind starts to question its own story. The mirror of silence shows her not who you were, but who she became. The games, the ego, the subtle disrespect, it all comes flooding back in her own reflection, and there's nowhere left to hide. You see, words can be debated, twisted, misunderstood, but silence can't be argued with. It's neutral, but it's heavy. It forces honesty. It's the space where her guilt has room to breathe. And when that happens, she starts to feel something she didn't expect: regret. Because silence exposes imbalance. It reveals who truly cared and who only consumed. And when she realizes that your peace was never a punishment but a protection, the mirror gets even clearer. She begins to see that it wasn't your silence that hurt her. It was her own noise being reflected back. This is the part she won't admit to anyone: that your stillness made her restless, that your calm made her chaotic, that your detachment made her desperate to feel something again, because once you stop feeding her validation, she has to generate her own. and that's when she realizes how dependent she was on your presence. The mirror of silence doesn't lie. It shows her that maybe, just maybe, you weren't the problem. Maybe you were the one who brought balance, who offered calm, who gave more than you received. And that truth, that quiet realization, is something no argument, no text, no closure talk could ever deliver. That's the beauty and the cruelty of Stoic silence. It doesn't shout, it simply reflects. And the longer she stares into it, the more she sees what she lost and who you've become without her. There comes a point when the silence shifts the balance. At first, she believed she was in control. She thought walking away would make you chase, thought your silence was temporary, a test of patience. But as time passes, something inside her starts to flip. The power she once held begins to fade, and your calm, your quiet indifference, becomes the very thing she can't stop thinking about. This is the emotional reversal, the moment when the chaser becomes the chased, when the one who withdrew becomes the one who is now being sought. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, subtly, like water wearing down stone. Every day that you remain silent, every moment you don't reach out, her illusion of control cracks a little more, because silence has a gravity to it. It pulls her thoughts inward, it makes her wonder, it makes her remember. At first, she'll test the waters, a like on an old post, a short text, something to see if you'll break your silence. But when you don't respond, when you remain still, she begins to spiral, because the mind cannot stand uncertainty, and your silence is uncertainty incarnate. It makes her question herself. Was I the problem? Did I push too hard? Did I lose something real? And this is the paradox. She thought she'd feel free without you. Instead, she feels haunted, because the energy that used to surround her is gone, and in its place is a void. And no matter what or who she tries to fill it with, it doesn't feel the same. That's the cost of losing a Stoic man. You don't realize his worth until the silence he leaves behind starts to echo louder than his presence ever did. While she's overthinking, you're rebuilding. While she's waiting for a message, you're mastering yourself. While she's sinking into regret, you're rising into peace. That's the quiet victory, the kind that doesn't need to be announced, because the energy speaks for itself. This is where dark Stoicism truly shines. You don't have to explain. You don't have to prove. You just live in such peace that it unsettles everything and everyone that once took you for granted. Because your silence is no longer her punishment, it's your evolution. And that evolution terrifies her, because she knows now, this silence isn't temporary. It's transformation, and the man she once knew no longer exists. This is where most men fail. They react, they argue, they try to prove their worth to someone who already decided to forget it. But the Stoic man, he doesn't react. He observes, he detaches, he lets silence speak for him, because he knows that words mean nothing when peace is on the line. The Stoic response is simple: acceptance. You don't chase closure, you become closure. You don't beg to be seen, you let absence reveal your value. That's the power of restraint, when you stop explaining your intentions and start embodying them. Because silence isn't about ignoring her, it's about mastering yourself. When you reach this level, you no longer operate from emotion, but from principle. You realize that her opinion, her validation, her reaction, none of it defines your worth. You define that in how calmly you move through chaos. You understand that life doesn't owe you fairness, love doesn't owe you loyalty, and people don't owe you consistency. But you owe yourself control. You owe yourself peace. So instead of arguing, you breathe. Instead of chasing, you walk away. Instead of trying to fix what's broken, you build something stronger within yourself. because a man who can remain composed in silence is more feared, more respected, and more remembered than the one who shouts to be understood. You see, a Stoic man doesn't seek to change others. He masters the only thing he can control, his response. That's why your silence feels so foreign to her. She's used to men trying to fix, trying to chase, trying to earn back what was lost. But you're not trying anymore. You're allowing life to reveal who belongs and who doesn't. And in that calm, she feels something she can't quite name, respect mixed with regret. Because you didn't just disappear to hurt her, you withdrew to heal. You didn't go silent to punish, you went silent to protect. That difference is what separates power from pettiness. When you move like this, calmly, quietly, intentionally, you become unshakable. You become the man who no longer needs to prove a point, because your presence, even in absence, speaks louder than any explanation ever could. That's the Stoic response. Not rage, not revenge, just stillness. The kind that unnerves, enlightens, and transforms. When the noise fades and the silence settles, something remarkable begins to happen. You start to feel your own power again. The same energy that was once spent explaining, defending, or fixing begins to return home. The attention that once went outward now flows inward. You realize your silence wasn't just withdrawal, it was recalibration. Every moment you don't react, every urge you resist, every time you choose stillness over impulse, you reclaim another piece of yourself. Reclaiming your inner power isn't about dominance, it's about discipline. It's understanding that peace is not passive, it's earned through restraint. Because in silence, you meet the parts of yourself that were drowned out by the noise of validation. You begin to notice your thoughts, your habits, your emotions. You see how much of your strength was given away to people and situations that didn't deserve it. And you start to rebuild. The more you stay silent, the more you realize you don't need to be understood, you just need to be aligned. You don't need to be liked, you need to be grounded. The world tells men that strength is shown through reaction, through force, through making noise. But the Stoic man knows true strength is invisible. It's in how calmly he moves when others panic. It's in how he keeps his emotions in check while others lose control. And that's what happens when you stop chasing. You start attracting, because power doesn't chase, it draws. The man who is content in his solitude becomes magnetic. Not because he's trying to be, but because his energy is pure again. He's no longer desperate, no longer distracted, no longer depleted. His silence becomes sacred space, an energy she can feel, but no longer access. You start waking up differently. You train harder, you think clearer, you walk taller, you speak less. But when you do, it carries weight, because you've tapped into something most never reach, the peace of a man who has nothing to prove. And that's the paradox. When you stop trying to be powerful, you become untouchable. When you stop explaining yourself, people start to notice your absence like a missing heartbeat, because the world feels it when a man returns to himself. That's the essence of dark Stoicism. It's not about being cold, it's about being centered. It's the calm in the storm, the stillness that commands respect, and the silence that speaks in frequencies only the strong can hear. There comes a day when it finally hits her. Maybe it's months later, maybe it's a year, but it always comes. The moment when she looks around and realizes the silence wasn't a game, it was the end. She scrolls through your old messages, the ones where you once tried to explain, tried to fix, tried to hold it together. And now she sees them differently. She sees the patience she mistook for weakness, the kindness she confused with neediness. The love she took for granted now reads like wisdom she was too blind to understand. It's in that moment, when she realizes you're not angry anymore, not waiting, not even thinking about her, that the silence becomes deafening. Because your absence is no longer about distance, it's about transformation. You've changed. You've evolved into someone untouchable. The man she once knew doesn't exist anymore. He died quietly the moment he chose peace over persuasion. At first, she'll feel disbelief, then regret, then something deeper, respect mixed with sorrow, because deep down she knows you never left to hurt her. You left to heal yourself, and that realization stings more than any argument ever could. She thought silence meant space. She thought it meant hesitation, but now she sees it meant finality. She'll test the waters, maybe once more, a message out of nowhere, a faint apology, a memory disguised as small talk. But when she's met with calm indifference instead of longing, it shakes her, because it's no longer anger she feels, it's loss, not of a relationship, but of access. Access to your energy, to your heart, to your presence. You see, there's something haunting about a man who forgives but never returns, who remembers but never reopens the door. That's the moment she realizes the silence she once laughed at is now her consequence. It's not revenge, it's revelation. Because now, the peace that used to come from you is gone, and she has to find it on her own. And while she's learning that lesson, you're already far beyond it. You've made peace with the past. You've learned that detachment isn't about indifference. It's about mastery. It's about letting life unfold without the need to control how it ends. That's when she finally understands. You never stopped caring. You just cared enough for both of you, and then decided to give that energy back to yourself. There's a point where silence stops feeling like withdrawal and starts feeling like home. That's when you know you've crossed the threshold from reaction to mastery. You no longer check your phone for validation. You no longer replay the past in your mind. You no longer wonder if she regrets it, because you've outgrown the need for any of it. That's self-mastery, the art of standing alone and feeling whole. When you stop seeking peace from people, you begin creating it within yourself. The gym becomes your temple. The solitude becomes your sanctuary. Every time you say nope to a distraction, every time you choose discipline over desire, every time you stay quiet instead of explaining, you build a version of yourself that even you didn't know you could become. The silence that once hurt now heals. The loneliness that once broke you now builds you. Self-mastery is not about controlling the world. It's about controlling how you move through it. You stop chasing closure because you realize peace doesn't come from answers. It comes from acceptance. You stop needing to be understood because you've learned to understand yourself. You stop reacting to life and start responding with purpose. That's the evolution of a Stoic man. You start seeing the world differently. What used to trigger you now teaches you. What used to bother you now builds you. You recognize that silence isn't emptiness. It's focus. It's your awareness sharpening. It's your power condensing. You become someone that chaos can't touch, manipulation can't move, and loss can't break. And that's when the world begins to respond differently to you. People feel your energy before you speak. Your presence carries gravity. You no longer demand respect. It's given naturally. Because a man who's mastered his emotions radiates something rare, quiet confidence. It's not loud. It's not arrogant. It's composed. It's the kind of strength that makes others feel your stability even in your absence. This is the return to self-mastery, the place where your silence becomes sacred, your mind becomes your ally, and your peace becomes your empire. You've stopped being reactive and started being sovereign. You no longer move out of pain, you move out of purpose, and that is what it means to be untouchable. At some point, the silence stops being about her and starts being about you. You look back and realize the journey wasn't about winning anyone back, or proving a point, or even being understood. It was about becoming the man who no longer needs to explain himself, the one who moves with calm precision, who can sit in stillness and not crave chaos, who knows that peace is the highest form of power. That's what dark Stoicism is really about. It's not bitterness, it's awakening. It's learning that detachment doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means your feelings no longer control you. You've faced heartbreak, rejection, misunderstanding, and instead of collapsing, you built yourself into something stronger, quieter, wiser. You became your own closure, your own compass, your own peace. The silence that once felt heavy now feels holy, because in it you found yourself, and that version of you, the grounded, calm, self-contained man, is someone few will ever understand, but everyone will feel. That's the paradox of silence. The quieter you become, the louder your presence becomes in the world. So if you're listening to this right now, remember, your silence is not weakness, it's command. It's proof that you've chosen growth over reaction, self-respect over validation, and purpose over pain. You've learned to walk alone without being lonely, to stand firm when everything tries to shake you. That's not loss, that's transformation. And when she realizes your silence isn't temporary, she'll also realize something else. You were never hers to lose. You were always yours to find. So hold that silence with pride. Let it be your armor, your discipline, your message to the world that you no longer move out of emotion. You move out of mastery. Thank you for watching, brother. If you're walking this path, if you're ready to master your emotions, reclaim your peace, and live like a Stoic soldier, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to join the ranks. This is Stoic Blessing, where calm becomes power and silence becomes the language of strength. Until next time, stay grounded, stay unbothered, and walk in peace.